Everybody. That's better. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Saturday morning, and it's actually not a bad day to be inside because when I was driving here this morning, it was looking kind of gray and blah. So it's a good day to be here learning some fascinating facts on food for thought. Welcome to the conference. My name is Jennifer Hearn. I am the Chief Officer and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing. And I'm really, really excited to welcome you guys back for what unfortunately is the final day of our 8th annual National Healthcare Conference. How many of you guys have already been here for a couple of the sessions, Thursday and Friday? Yeah, what do you think? How's it been? Good? We've had some fantastic speakers over the last couple of days and tons of information. But if you missed it, don't despair because we are recording all of the sessions and they will be available on the conference website after the conference is over. So the conference website is pretty easy to remember. It's healthcareconference.ky, and you'll be able to go on there and check out any of the sessions you missed or revisit any of the sessions that you did see and you wanted to go back and remind yourself about some of the cool facts that were in there. Okay, so a couple of things. Some housekeeping, of course. As always, I'm going to ask you all to make sure your phones are on silent or vibrate. If you haven't done that already, it's really distracting for everybody around you if your phone starts chirping and beeping. And some of the ringtones are really cool, but better to have them outside when they're not going to bother anybody, please. And on phones as well, the Wi-Fi code, which I know is a burning question for those of you who haven't been here yet for the conference, it's generously sponsored by Generali, and the code is just that. It's Generali, all lowercase, and it's the Ritz_conf, I think, is the Wi-Fi, if you want to access it. And also on the subject of phones and making calls, tonight is the NCVO telethon. So just, if you have some time to tune in and support a very worthy cause, please do so. Barry brought her little pen to me this morning. She has a really cute pen. If you want to ask Barry to show you her pen, it's got this fuzzy head. And she says, "Can you please promote the telethon?" So there you go, Barry. I hope everybody will support you in your telethon this evening. We have so many sponsors and exhibitors, and we really couldn't put this conference on and offer it free of charge without all of them. So can I ask you all to give the sponsors and exhibitors a big round of applause? So it is Saturday, and I don't know about you guys, but usually on Saturday I wake up and I've got my list, my must-do list, my checklist, all the stuff I didn't get done during the week that I've got to go and do. So over the last couple of days of the conference, I've been asking you all to do a couple things. So just to let you know, this is it. This is your last chance to tick off your Saturday checklist for the conference. So the things I wanted you to do, anybody remember? I wanted you to thank a sponsor, thank an exhibitor, thank a volunteer. The volunteers are the ones in the really cool black shirts that say Healthcare Conference, yeah? Make sure too that you check out the Health Check Station. That's sponsored by Broward Health, and the Health Services Authority booth in the room next door where we have breakfast has got your seasonal flu shot and also an opportunity to sign up as a blood donor. All right, so you got all that on your list? Yeah? All good? Excellent. So I'll be checking in after the coffee break. Fair warning, there'll be a pop quiz after the coffee break on how you're doing on your checklist. So one of the really cool things that we've got this year, and I don't know if any of you did them yesterday, are the cooking demos upstairs in the demo kitchen. Did any of you get a chance to take those in yesterday? Yeah, so I had some good feedback on those. We have some more opportunities this morning. First one is at 9 o'clock, which I guess is now. So you could run out of the room and go catch it. Next one's at 10, and the last one is at 11. You do need to sign up for them. You can do that by the registration desk. Space is limited. And today it's Chef Artemio from the Brasserie, so it's a different thing. If you went yesterday, it's a different thing today. So you can sign up there now. Another thing I want to ask you all to do, please, is take some time to fill out an evaluation form before you leave today. We will also send you one by email. But it's really important for us to get your feedback, because your feedback is what helps us to plan next year's conference. So please make sure that you take a few minutes, give us your feedback, give us your suggestions for future topics, future themes, or speakers that you'd really like to see, because all of that gets fed into the whole process of planning for next year, which I guess will probably start soon. All right, for the healthcare practitioners in the room, don't forget we've also got your continuing medical education certificates available. You can pick those up at registration. And yeah, I think we're ready to go. How you guys doing? Good? Yeah, we've got some fantastic speakers this morning and a little bit more of a focus on mental health today. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. So our first speaker today is Dr. Lily Wagner, who's a psychologist with Infinite Mind Care. With over 17 years of providing mental health care, Dr. Wagner has been a licensed psychologist in California with her own practice since 2003. She hails from California and arrives in Cayman via Las Vegas, Nevada. She's a licensed psychologist in Cayman at Infinite Mind Care. Her long-standing interest and love of learning about mind-body connection led her to continue her studies of how nutrition plays a critical role in physical and mental health. She holds a postdoctoral Master of Science in Psychopharmacology and furthered her education with certifications in primal health coaching, integrative nutrition health coaching, autoimmune paleo health coaching, and has a certificate in nutritional psychology. She provides cognitive, behavioral, interpersonal, and integrative therapeutic techniques and enjoys using eco-psychology via a beach walk and talk session. Her specialties include adult and geropsychology, chronic disease, autoimmune concerns, cancer, end-of-life issues, eating disorders, substance abuse, and addiction. Her graduate school training focused on treating chemical dependency. Dr. Wagner practices daily meditation and mindfulness and loves helping people become healthy, happy, fulfilled, and at peace. She also enjoys cooking healthy, nutrient-dense, delicious meals for a long life and a healthy brain. This morning, Dr. Wagner is going to talk to us about health and nutritional psychology, how nutrition plays a role in mood, behavior, and cognition. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Lily Wagner.
Good morning. How's everybody? Are you awake, excited? I sure am. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night because I was so excited about this talk. As soon as I found out that this topic was about food for thought, I jumped at it because this is my area where I'm very passionate about. All right. Oop, I got to get used to this podium and the microphone. So I'm Dr. Lily Wagner. I've been a psychologist for over 17 years in mental health field, providing various services. I work at Infinite Mind Care, and we provide a multitude of services for anywhere ages 7 plus, 100 plus, and everything in between. And we have a booth here, so if you have any questions afterwards, please come by and say hi. I'll be happy to talk to everyone. A little bit about why I'm here, but the main question is, how am I here? If you had told me a little less than 25 years ago that I would be standing here actually talking, I would have laughed in your face because I didn't even expect my life to be this long. I was having so many health issues, and I was in the hospital. On my 25th birthday, I was in the hospital and getting a blood transfusion, and I honestly, with all the pain and the agony that I suffered with my autoimmune disease, I never expected my life to have lived this long, actually. I didn't even expect to get to 50. And basically, we'll start all the way in the beginning, because I had a lot of dings that created the health problems that I had. One, I was a C-section baby. I was born pretty much purple because I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and that might be the reason why I like the color purple. I don't know. So ding number one, didn't have enough oxygen in my brain. Ding number two, I didn't get my mom's healthy gut bacteria via natural birth. And amazing, we'll get to that bacteria information in a little bit. What I did then was get very involved in learning about health and nutrition at that time. I was sick. I didn't know what was happening to my body when I was 25 in the hospital. And I looked back at my life and I said, hey, you know what? My dad, who was a germaphobe, every time I got sick, he took me to the doctor. And what did doctors do back then? Antibiotics. What does antibiotics do? It kills your gut bacteria. And nobody at that time knew what probiotics were and to give it to anybody. So at that, right then and there, my gut microbiome was messed up. And eventually, after being on medications when I was 25 with all the heavy dose medications of prednisone and, Prilosec, everything that they gave me at that time, it caused a lot of side effects. And I didn't like those side effects. I lost my hair, I had temporary diabetes, I had blurred vision, I lost bone density, so I don't have as much bone as any normal person at this time would in their life. And eventually I said, this is not what I want to do. How can I help myself? So I got into healthy eating. I changed my diet, more protein, a little less of the grains and fibers, and eventually I got my gut health back. However, you know, as life goes on, we get complacent and we think, hey, we don't need to do any of these anymore. So a little over 2 years ago, I got sick again. I was actually here on island, and I woke up one day and my fingers were just like this, stuck. Inflammation, massive inflammation. I woke up and I said, why am I feeling this? What is going on to my body? And it's amazing. You can accumulate, and then all of a sudden your body just gives up and says, okay, this is how I'm going to treat you. So I was pretty much washing my face like a cat. That's how I did it. And I didn't know what was going on. We thought maybe it was rheumatoid arthritis. We went to one doctor, to another doctor, went back to the States, found different doctors, and they're like, oh, we can't find anything in your blood work, you're fine. And eventually I did my own research. I delved right into it, and I started learning about a protocol called the autoimmune paleo protocol, and that's an elimination diet. So I started just eliminating a lot of foods that could cause allergies or sensitivities in the body. And with that, I was able to get off of all of my medications. So I was on methotrexate and prednisone and Prilosec again, which, you know, I had massive weight loss, again, the hair loss, and I didn't want to live like that anymore. So with this protocol, I was able to get my health back, I got my gut health back, and I got my stamina and vigor back, and I began to feel more hopeful about my future. I suffered, and now I thrive. And I do that because I went with the N=1 concept, and that is bioindividuality. One person's food is another person's poison. So just because you can be a vegetarian, which I was in the beginning, that's what led me to my hospital stay when I was 25, that did not work for me. My body didn't like it. As much as morally I would love to be a vegan and a vegetarian, my gut hates me for it. So I have to be kind to my gut, because as we will find, the gut and the brain are connected. All right. And I'm all about the root cause of any problem and treating that. Because when we just put a Band-Aid on something, we're missing out on the big picture. And what do Band-Aids do? They create other problems that we're not even looking at. The underlying problem is still there, and it's causing issues. And when we take medication and we over-medicate, then we're having a lot of side effects that we don't want to ignore. And the side effects include some mental health issues. So I thrive, and I want to help others thrive and do what I can to end the suffering that I see and hear every day of my life, from whether it's family members, from just random people, my patients, and there is a way, and we can help ourselves. And it's being proactive about our bodies, our lives, and of course, our brain. What was it? The first week of this month was mental illness awareness week, and with that, I noticed that, too many people are suffering in silence from mental illness, and that's why I'm here. It's about mental health. And in order to move forward, we have to open our minds. What you know now may not be 100% true to what you and your body can benefit from. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to say some stats. 1 in 4 in the US will experience mental illness. Half of the chronic mental illness begins by age 14, and I'm sure you have noticed that in some of the kids you've worked with or some of the kids you see in the grocery store throwing a tantrum. Some of that is normal, but we also want to look at what they're getting fed. And what I see being fed to kids is a lot of sugar, candies, all the cereals, Fruit Loops, and Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles. And then a 3/4 of mental illness starts before the age of 24. 10.2 million people have co-occurring psychiatric disorders along with addictions, so they go hand in hand sometimes because people are trying to self-medicate somehow. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. So by 2020, depression will be the second cause of disability and premature death. 2020? That's only 3 years from now. That's a staggering amount. More than 1 in 10 Americans take an antidepressant medication. The growing public health concern this is all around the world. It's not just here, it's not the US, this is a big problem. Mental illness is a huge issue. 1 in 6 in the past week have had a mental health problem. All right, so today I'm going to run through some quick definitions and explanation of the role of our neurotransmitters in the brain, which foods contain nutrients for mood stabilization, and the neurotransmitters in the brain. We're going to look through the standard American diet, which appropriately is SAD, sugar and hormones. We're going to explore your second brain, which is your gut, and we're going to go through some nutritional and lifestyle factors that influence mood, behavior, emotions, and cognition, and what you can do. And my goal is that you can incorporate, starting today, the little things I will tell you for a healthier brain, a happier mood, and a more peaceful life. I will be controversial, I will be unconventional, but if I wasn't, I would not be standing here today alive. So let's dive in, shall we? All right. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical doctor, I am a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor nor a nutritionist, and the information presented here today is not offered to treat or cure a psychiatric illness and shouldn't be used as a substitute for sound medical advice. This information is nutritional and informational and not medical. I'm a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. I give hugs, not drugs, and I provide skills, not pills. All right. What is health psychology? The study of psychological and behavioral processes in health, illness, and healthcare. It is understanding how psychological, behavioral, and cultural factors contribute to physical health and illness. What is nutritional psychology? It's the science of how nutrients affect mood and behavior, examining the relationship between food and our internal experience, illuminating the biophysiological mechanisms influenced by our nutrient intake that underlie mood and behavior. When I talk about diet and nutrition, many people's eyes roll backwards. I lose them. They glaze over and they don't want to hear it. It's too complicated. Don't tell me what I can or cannot eat, right? However, and diet has become a nasty 4-letter word today, D-I-E-T. Nobody likes that. I like using nutrition instead, or the 4-letter word that starts with F, fuel. How do you want to fuel your body? If you have a car that says unleaded fuel only, do you go put diesel in it? I don't. What would happen if you did? It would putt around, and then I'd see you on the side of the road hailing me down for a ride. So why do we choose to not fuel our body efficiently, effectively, and appropriately? And there's too many diets to choose from, right? How many of you have at least one diet book? Come on, don't be shy. I have multiple over the years, and recently I'm collecting more because I do a lot of research on these diets. Some of the diets are extremely confusing. There are diets that are evidence-based, they have good research backing, and other diets have zero evidence base. Cabbage diet, maybe for a little bit, as well as diets that say, oh, here's a meal replacement shake, buy this from me, and a lot of those have too much salt or not enough of your proteins that you need and not enough of the good fats that we need. So I say skip the middleman and just eat real whole foods, preferably without any packaging or labels, right? All right. And there's also all this lingo we have to navigate through. It's so confusing. Organic versus non-organic. Is it which vegetable is on the dirty dozen list? Is it pasture raised? Is it cage-free? Is it USDA organic? And do you GMO or not GMO? Lots of confusion. It's no wonder there's a disconnect. And this peril of indecisiveness causes stress, which may unfortunately make us, in the end, choose the wrong food for our body, because stress makes us want certain foods that are bad for us, those comfort foods. All right, let's start some quick, easy basics. So we have macronutrients, which is the compounds that we eat in the highest quantities, and this is the compounds that we eat that provide our energy, the bulk of our energy. And the ratio of these macronutrients is what we eat. In what we eat can affect mood. We have carbohydrates, proteins, amino acids, fats, and cholesterol. Carbohydrates. Oh my gosh, in my perfect world, I would live off of bananas and condensed milk. Which I did for a little while when I was a kid. But in my gut, it would be chaotic. Even though we may think or believe that certain foods are good for us because of what our parents told us, what the government told us, what a diet book told us, it may not be good for our specific body. So we have to look and listen to our body and remember we are individuals and we are also not parts. I am not just an eyeball or an arm or a stomach or a head. It's an individual as a whole being. So we can't just look at one factor. Everything affects everything. Your brain affects your gut affects your brain. Everything is related. Even though we think it's right, sometimes it's not going to work for our body. And our body uses carbohydrates to make glucose, and that glucose can be used immediately or stored later for use. There are two types of carbohydrates. This is going to be really fast. Simple and complex. The simple carbohydrates consist of sugars. We move into the complex carbohydrates, which are comprised of dietary fiber and starches. Within the fiber category, we have soluble, insoluble fibers, and the next subcategory are starches, and they're refined and unrefined. Refined starches are your bread, cereals, and grains, and the unrefined starches are potatoes, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, etc. And just a note, unfortunately, most products that are labeled whole wheat are actually extremely high on refined carbohydrates. So I hear a lot, oh, just eat whole wheat bread and eat whole wheat cereal. Wheaties is the #1 way to get your energy. Not necessarily. Fruits are considered simple carbs. However, they do contain insoluble fiber, which slows down the rate of insulin being released. This means an entire fruit produces less blood sugar spike than fruit juice, which unfortunately is just simple sugar and with the fiber removed. So orange juice is not really your friend, even though we have been taught that it is. Get your vitamin C from orange juice. Drink this for health. Simple carbs are refined with little nutritional value, and they are digested fast and destabilize the blood sugar adrenal axis, which I will get into later. What happens when we eat carbohydrates? #1, spike of your insulin. It releases the insulin. It stimulates the amino acids L-tryptophan and L-tyrosine, which are the amino acids that build your serotonin and norepinephrine into the brain. And then you have a rapid increase in mood, right away. Ooh, I had this chocolate, I feel good. And unfortunately, this is the cause of carbohydrate cravings and that addictive effect that you feel. I can't live without my chocolate. I can't live without my bread. This is what we hear. Other than pleasure, our brain has no need for simple carbohydrates, 0. If you're going to take one message home today, that's the big one. Another macronutrient is protein. Protein is important. This is what helps build our mood-regulating neurotransmitters. It has amino acids. We need those proteins in our body, and most of the time, those amino acids that create our neurotransmitters are only found through food. It helps to regulate our blood sugars and limits excess cortisol. Next is fats, and our brain loves fat. It does. People are so afraid of fat. I'm not. I eat a lot of fat. Our brain is carbohydrate dependent to a certain extent, and it uses glucose for carbs as fuel. This has an effect on mood, as we will discuss shortly with the blood sugar adrenal axes. However, there's a beautiful, and this is a big and important however, there's a beautiful, lovely process called gluconeogenesis that happens when the body is on a low carbohydrate, ketogenic, or Atkins-style diet, and which comprises of basically eating fats and protein with very, very low carbohydrate intake. Technically, we don't need carbohydrate for glucose production. Due to gluconeogenesis, we can actually utilize proteins and fats for fuels. Specifically, fat is the fuel. And remember, fuel effectively, fuel efficiently, and fuel optimally. Fats are consisted of unsaturated, saturated, and trans fat. Your unsaturated fats are mostly from plants. They're liquid at room temperature, and there's two types, the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. I'll focus on the polyunsaturated because there's two types of those, omega-3s and omega-6s. Everybody's heard of omega-3s, yes? Omega-3s are good for you. Have fish oil, it's good for you. It is good for you. Omega-3s are found in fatty fishes. Fishes? Fish. They are sardines, salmon, mackerel, And they're also available in shellfish as EPA and DHA. And in plants, you have soybean, canola, walnuts, and flaxseed. Actually, the American Psychiatric Association has stated that omega-3 treatment is okay for mood disorder. So they found some great evidence and research that has been done for omega-3s, and that is healthy. It helps a lot of mood disorders. Omega-6 is they're the liquid vegetable oils, soybean, the corn oil, and safflower oil. And what happens is we get an imbalance of the 3 and 6. A lot of what is out there are food, what I call junk food. That's the standard American diet, has a ton of omega-6 in it. And when you have an imbalance of your omega-3 and 6, it causes havoc. It causes a lot of inflammation. Your saturated fats are solid at room temperature, mostly in animal foods. You find it in milk, cheese, butter, and meat. And coconut oil, my favorite, and palm oil. And I'm sure here and there you hear, coconut oil is bad for you. It's not bad for you. It's delicious. So saturated fats have gotten a bad rap, but in actuality, they're not that bad. Trans fats are the ones that are in your processed foods and all the junk food and snack food. It's a shortening and partially hydrogenated oils. We want to steer clear of that. A little bit about cholesterol, and how we have vilified our poor cholesterol. My cholesterol is too high, I need to get on a medication. Not necessarily. Your body actually needs cholesterol, and your brain needs cholesterol. The results of the cholesterol test that you might have taken here may not be accurate as to what's healthy. So HDL is your high-density lipoprotein. I remember it as H equals healthy, so that's your healthy cholesterol. And your LDL is the low-density lipoprotein, and this is what everybody knows to be the bad cholesterol. However, your HDL definitely needs to be higher than your LDL, and the interesting thing about LDL is that there are actually 2 types. One is the light, fluffy kind, which is type A, and the other one is the dense, smaller particles, which is type B. The light, fluffy kind is actually good for you. The dense, small particles are bad for you, and that's the stuff that gets stuck in your arteries. So when we get an LDL count, we're not really sure which one it is, whether it's type A or type B, and there are tests that will tell you, hey, you have this much of the light, fluffy kind versus this much of the dense, smaller particles. So having high LDL isn't necessarily bad. It may not be the criminal, but it just happens to be at the scene of the crime, so we can't vilify our cholesterol. All right, let's go quickly to micronutrients. These are your vitamins, minerals, trace elements, antioxidants, and the phytonutrients that your body needs in the small quantities and are essential for good health. Deficiencies can cause serious health problems as well as mental health problems. Micronutrients play an essential role in the biochemistry of the brain, and what we'd like to see is you first get it from the food. If you don't get enough from food, that's when you provide supplementation. I'll focus on the main ones that affect mood and cognition. Of course, the B vitamins, we all know about the B, that's our good stuff. It's our anti-stress happy vitamin. Many people tend to be deficient in B12, and the deficiency in B12 can be serious. It can cause a variety of mental disorders, brain fog, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, and memory loss. 2 groups that are at risk for B12 deficiency are the elderly and vegetarians, because B12 comes from animals. So if you're not eating animal proteins and products, you are not getting enough vitamin B12. So supplementation may be necessary at that time. B1 is thiamine. It prevents memory loss, it maintains positive attitude, it controls mood and the way you handle stress. And B3 is niacin. It helps you relax and sleep more rapidly. It can reduce anxiety and depression. B6, it helps regulate mood and prevents mental fatigue. And B9, which is folate and folic acid, it improves cognition and memory function. Then we go, of course, vitamin D is our sunshine vitamin. We get plenty of it here, unless, of course, it's raining, which we've had a lot of lately. It improves memory and your mood. Low levels have been associated with cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, and dementia. You get the winter blues, which is the seasonal affective disorder when you don't have enough vitamin D because it's all doomy, gloomy, rainy. I think sometimes San Francisco, London, Seattle, Oregon. Various parts of the world that don't have enough sunlight, so you definitely need to supplement with vitamin D. Iron is for attention and focus, beneficial effect on mood. Magnesium is your calming, chill micronutrient. It helps with concentration and focus, better sleep, helps you relax, you get in a better mood, it reduces cravings, and it creates more resilience to stress, reduces anxiety, and it's good for ADHD and hyperactivity. Zinc, you have actually the highest amount of zinc is in your brain. It helps with body and brain's ability to handle stress. Low levels are linked to depression. Vitamin E protects against neuronal degeneration, slow rate of cognitive decline. So with any of these micronutrients, you got to try the food method for it. If you are going to get supplementation, I highly recommend that you research the brand you're buying, because a lot of stuff out there doesn't actually have the amount that it says that is available on the bottle. Many companies have gotten into trouble with that recently. So be careful. You will, you get what you pay for. So if you go and you're seeing a sale for $5 for vitamin D, I don't think you've got enough vitamin D in that bottle. So always research the brand. Calcium is another micronutrient that plays a role in reducing stress, relaxation, and has a calming effect. Vitamin C is a fantastic antioxidant. It protects the brain from the free radicals. And when you have too much free radicals in your brain, it damages your brain cells. Where do you think you can get vitamin C? Anyone? What? Orange juice. However, you can get it from dark leafy vegetables, kale, broccoli, and did you know that yellow bell peppers have more vitamin C than an orange? It has 5 times the amount of vitamin C than an orange, and it has a ton less sugar than an orange. Kiwi, that has a lot of sugar too, but it's still not as high as the bell pepper. Blueberries are good. Your berries are good. Potassium supports memory function and stress reduction. Many mental health disorders, such as depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD, autism, OCD, are all associated with nutrient deficiency. So let's look at that first before we medicate, right? Get into the root cause. Don't forget that oxygen, water, and sleep are also nutrients, and we need a lot of that. It's good for your brain. All right. Neurotransmitters. Our nervous system is the primary communication system in our body. It's a network of neurons. We have, 100 billion neurons that connect organs to the brain. That's a lot of neurons. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals that are in the brain that regulate mood and emotion. Serotonin and norepinephrine are 2 neurotransmitters that are involved with depression and other mood and psychiatric disorders. Most antidepressant medications are either SSRIs, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, such as Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, and Lexapro, and SNRIs, which are the selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, such as Cymbalta, Effexor, and Pristiq. And Wellbutrin is the only antidepressant that is a norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake inhibitor. What does that even mean? It means that in your synaptic cleft, it prevents the serotonin from disappearing. It keeps it in the synaptic cleft, and that's what your brain needs in order to have enough serotonin or norepinephrine or dopamine in your brain. Serotonin is created from the amino acid L-tryptophan, and norepinephrine is from the amino acid L-tyrosine. And these amino acids are found and created from the proteins that we eat. Serotonin, of course, is our feel-good neurotransmitter that just makes everything wonderful. It stabilizes your emotions, increases self-confidence, positivity, and emotional flexibility. 3 ways you can't get serotonin is sunlight through your eyeball. We're not talking about glasses. You got to expose your eyes to the sun, and for some people that's impossible. I can't do that. I'm just going to eat. Entering through, you got to do exercise, and you can also eat protein. Serotonin is low if you don't get enough sunlight, hence the concept of the seasonal affective disorder, which is your winter blues. If you have chronic stress, and if you are genetically predisposed, if you're using a lot of artificial sweeteners, you have low intake of whole healthy foods, or you're into the yo-yo dieting, your serotonin supply will deplete. Symptoms of low serotonin include depression, anxiety, fatigue, moodiness, reduced stress tolerance, irritability, carb cravings, uncontrolled appetite, and that's why they give antidepressants for those with binge eating disorders, insomnia, gastrointestinal distress, fibromyalgia, IBS, and winter blues, impulsiveness, memory problems, suicidal thoughts, aggression, obsessive thoughts and behaviors, panic attacks. I know, the list goes on. Phobia, bulimia, addiction, PMS, afternoon, evening cravings. And this is a long list. So basically, serotonin is a very important neurotransmitter. neurotransmitter dopamine is your reward and pleasure center, and it's made by tyrosine. Again, something that comes from protein. And the dysregulation of dopamine plays a role in a number of psychiatric disorders. Most of my patients come in complaining of low mood, low energy, anxiety, insomnia, and their weight. Unfortunately, their remedy is caffeine, sugar, more caffeine and sugar, alcohol, medications to help them sleep, and tons of carbohydrates, pizza, bread, pasta, potato, etc. This is, of course, a temporary relief. We call them comfort foods because they do provide a quick and immediate comfort. However, all simple carbohydrates cause that rapid increase in the insulin, dopamine, and the serotonin levels, and that lifts our moods temporarily. There's two negative effects of overeating carbohydrates. One is that it depletes your body's natural supply of the serotonin, and second, it destabilizes the blood sugar adrenal axes, which I'll get into shortly. High intake of carbs is insidious and detrimental and has negative effects on your body as well as your brain. Tryptophan is a good antidepressant for mild to moderate depression. It increases mood in the seasonal affective disorder, which is the winter blues, and it increases positivity bias in processing emotions. Sometimes you have a negativity bias. You're seeing something, you're processing your emotion, and you go to a negative mood versus a positive mood. When your serotonin is low, you're going to be in that negative mood. What happens when people self-medicate with carbs? You have a stress increase, which increases hunger for sweets. Of course, everything, even if it's good stress, right? After your wedding, I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. If there's any health issues, problems in the family, you're going to run for those carbs because they feel good temporarily. And then what happens? And 3 to 4 hours later, your mood crashes. Then what happens? Then you go back for more carbs, right? Oh, I feel bad again. I need that sugar high. So blood sugar crashes, you eat more carbs, and you have a reduction in your tryptophan supply. Insulin gives tryptophan the direct access to the brain, and this is why you have that super sharp rise in serotonin right away. The foods that contain tryptophan are your seafood, meat, poultry, eggs, dairy, cheese, milk, and soy. And there's no need to overconsume this. It doesn't mean like if you have pounds and pounds of protein in one day, you're going to have this massive amount of serotonin. You just want to make sure that we have a steady supply of these amino acids in our brain, and we are not depleting that. Norepinephrine is our energy, alert, concentration, and focus neurotransmitter. It increases, it helps your adrenals fight stress in your body. It's like your body's own coffee or caffeine or Starbucks. I don't think we have Starbucks here. Your low norepinephrine means that you have a lack of enthusiasm, you're indifferent, you don't care, you have decreased focus and concentration, you're going to need a lot more caffeine and sugar or cocaine and amphetamines to boost that norepinephrine up, and then you're going to have mental fatigue and depression. Okay. So these are a massive symptom of neurotransmitter dysregulation, so you know you got to take care of those neurotransmitters. You're going to have all these problems: depression, anxiety, fatigue, moodiness, irritability, addiction, phobias, panic attacks. We mentioned those before. And if we go to the next one, you'll see, what is it? Is it a psychiatric disorder or nutrient deficiency? Same stuff: anxiety, depression, poor mood, insomnia, fatigue, irritability, sugar and carb cravings, overeating, addictions, drugs, alcohol, poor frustration and stress tolerance. What's affecting us? The standard American diet is not a healthy diet. Get off those carbs and sugars. We have an increased sugar intake, insulin resistance, poor sleep, increased stress levels, technology, cell phones, poor nutrition, environmental toxin exposure, not getting enough, you're not getting the right help, you're not going to the doctor to talk about all these issues. Poor gut health, gut dysbiosis, and intestinal permeability, which I will talk to you about later. So here's our standard American diet. We may look like a Happy Meal, but we're making your body sad. All right, sugar addiction is a perpetual cycle. We have, first you eat your sugar, you like it, you crave it, it has addictive properties. Then your blood sugar levels spike up. Dopamine is released in the brain, and that causes addiction. Dopamine is what is spiked up when you have cocaine. So sugar and cocaine, that's how I think about my sugar. It's like, do I really want that spike? And you have a massive insulin secreted to drop the blood sugar levels. Next, what happens is your blood sugar levels fall rapidly. You have high insulin levels, causes immediate fat storage, and the body craves the lost sugar high again. And then, of course, you have the hunger and cravings. You have low blood sugar levels cause increased appetite and cravings. And this is the cycle that is vicious and is constantly repeated unless we are able to break that cycle. Here is the blood sugar adrenal axis I was talking about. Here's your, when you're low in your blood sugar range, you're going to have a high carb sugar meal, which rapidly rises your blood sugar. Here's your insulin. It surges and then rapidly lowers the blood sugar, but overshoots. So there you go down. And then you have low blood sugar symptoms, stress hormones released to raise the blood sugar to normal. So here's your cortisol fat storage mode. Here's your insulin fat storage mode. Goes up. Stress hormone overshoots the blood sugar into high range. So your insulin surge is to rapidly lower your blood sugar. Goes down. Low blood sugar symptoms. Stress hormone releases to raise the blood sugar to normal. So this is what we're doing. We're going on this roller coaster ride with our body, with our brain, and that causes a lot of not just physical problems, but mental health issues. Oops, sorry. All right, here are your hormones involved in mood. It's this lady saying, "I'm sick and tired of your mood swings, Frank." So there's lots of dietary and lifestyle factors that impact our mood. As far as excess carbs, excess sugar, sugar is addictive and toxic. In the last 50 years, the consumption of sugar has tripled worldwide, and 15% of the calories in people's diets are now coming from added sugars. And now, in a year, one person eats 135 pounds of sugar a year. That's a lot of sugar. It's easy to get into it. It stimulates the pleasure centers of our brain. It's yummy and palatable, as well as it's available everywhere. In the States, I have now seen that there's actually more drugstores than there are grocery stores, and that's a very sad reality that we have to live with. So we eat for pleasure instead of nutritive value. And these are not just empty calories. They increase your blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, cardiovascular disease, insulin resistance, inflammation, cancer, tumor growth, depression, anxiety, decreased memory, metabolic syndrome in the brain, dental disease, and liver disease. So cortisol is a hormone involved in our mood. It signals the body to store fat around our stomach. Insulin signals the body to store fat everywhere. Cortisol and insulin are the fat storage hormones. All right, let's get into the gut, my favorite. A very wise man between 460 to 370 BC said, "All disease begins in the gut." This is Hippocrates, and he is also known as the father of medicine. He's also the one who coined the Hippocratic Oath, "First, do no harm." Your gut is your second brain. There's a current American, I think it's called the Microbiome Project, that's delving into learning all about our gut bacteria. Did you know that 90% of our DNA is from our microbes? That's a lot. And only 10% is human. So we are basically big balls of microbes running around. We're not even human most of the time. It's a gutsy move for a brain. They play chess together all the time. All right, here's the gut-brain axis. So you have, the brain has influence on the gut with motility, secretion, nutrient delivery, and microbial balance. And the gut has an influence on the brain via the neurotransmitters, stress, anxiety, mood, behavior. The enteric nervous system is the neural network in the GI tract. And when the enteric nervous system and the central nervous system, which is your brain and spinal cord, they send signals to each other via the vagus nerve, hence the gut-brain axis. So in a recent study, when mice were fed lactobacillus, which is a gut bacteria, it reduced their anxiety. But this effect was stopped when the vagus nerve was cut. So the vagus nerve is the bridge between the brain and the gut. When you have poor gut communication, you have behavioral issues, you have cognitive difficulties, and emotional changes. Healthy digestion is essential for mood and behavior. And 90% of your serotonin is made in the gut. So you got to feed that gut appropriately. 50% of your dopamine is made in the gut. And the microbiome is consistent of gut microbes that are good and bad, and they produce some hormones and neurotransmitters. Have you ever noticed how food affects your mood? Ever? Anyone? Yeah, everyone's like, yeah. Ever eat something that makes you bloated or gassy and then makes you feel sad and irritable? And we've also heard of the idea of butterflies in your stomach when you're excited. And why do you think your gut is reacting that way? Why is your gut thinking? There's a connection. Why do people vomit or have to move their bowels when experiencing stressful situations or anxiety? And of course, I have a gut feeling about this. Listen to it. These are some examples of the link between the gut and brain affecting mood. There's a connection between our gut flora and our brain chemistry. So when we have poor diet, we're having excess stress. When there's excess sugar or excess carbohydrates, excess antibiotic use, this is all messing up the fine balance in our gut bacteria. And the bad bacteria end up outnumbering the good, which causes havoc in the gut. There has to be a balance and there has to be diversity, both good and bad. Okay, let's talk about intestinal permeability, or the lovely term they give it, leaky gut. Ugh. The small intestine has little tight junctions to keep out gut material from the bloodstream. How in the world would you ever think that gut material would go into your bloodstream? Unfortunately, it does. So these break down, little materials, break down into tiny particles, so only nutrients go into your bloodstream. And the weakened or improper functioning of the junctions allow this undigested protein, pathogens, and bacteria to cross the wall and get into your bloodstream. And this is what intestinal permeability is about. It's a major contributor for all kinds of autoimmune diseases where your body attacks itself. Trust me, I know, I lived that one. You can eat healthy, but you also need to absorb those nutrients. Poor digestion equals poor brain health, which equals poor digestion. So it's a nice little circle. So your food matters. Garbage in equals garbage out. Right? Yeah, food affects mood. Then there's no question about that. So do your own experimentation. You say, today, all day, I'm going to eat cake all day long. See how you feel. Tomorrow, all day, I'm going to eat a good healthy salad with some kind of protein on it. See how you feel. Make your lifestyle choices. We have to manage our stress, improve sleep hygiene. Got to have a digital detox day. What is that? Everyone I've prescribed that to loves it. I'm like, what do you mean? No Facebook, no Twitter, no whatever. Just turn everything off. We're not used to that. Our brain doesn't like that. Enjoy life, get out in nature, laugh, and move. So we have a choice. What you eat matters. Here's what you can do. We need to assess our need for the specific amino acids depending on your mood and your symptoms. You want to start crowding out the bad food by bringing in more good, healthy, nutrient-dense foods. What does crowding out mean anyway? So basically, you just want to add all the healthy stuff. You can eat all the junk food you want at that time, but as soon as you start adding more of the healthy stuff, it's going to crowd out the bad stuff because you're not going to be hungry that much anymore. You're going to start feeling satisfied, and you're not going to crave the bad foods. You want to increase your omega-3s as well as to balance out the omega-6s because we want to reduce any inflammation that's happening in our brain, in our body. And feed and heal your gut using bone broth, gelatin, collagen, prebiotics, and probiotics. I make my own bone broth all the time. It's like a soothing, lovely thing to have in the afternoon and the evening. And it has absolutely healed my gut. And then you want to consider possibly an elimination diet to address potential food sensitivities and food allergies. Now, elimination diets does not mean you have to do that for your entire life, but you're going to find things, hey, I'm allergic or sensitive to gluten. I'm allergic or sensitive to casein. I can't have sugar. I can't have bread. And it's learning about your body. That's how you do the elimination diet, is to take into account what might be the trigger for any kind of allergy or sensitivity. And I like to have my patients do a food and mood log. So for 3 days or more, we do a little diary. They put down everything that they eat, everything that goes in your mouth, the water, food that you're eating, gum, whatever. And what you do is you bring that to me. Then I look at it and see how many carbs, or not how many carbs specifically, but how much of carbohydrates you're eating during the day. And a lot of people underestimate the amount of carbs that they're eating. I say that which is not measured, I don't say it, somebody else did. That which is not measured cannot be managed. So we want to measure things and see how we're doing. This is the only way you can know if something is working or not. You want to do your blood pressure, weight, BMI, waist circumference. You want to check your blood sugar. You can get one of those monitors to check the blood sugar. Even if you have diabetes or not, it's a great way to see. In the morning, here's my blood sugar. In the afternoon, evening, what's happening to your body. And with the thyroid and hormones, you want to get your physician to supply those tests for you. All right. And some protocols to consider we'll talk about is to get rid of food allergies and sensitivities. I used to get a ton of sinus infections. I think it was like a 2-year period where every 3 months I was getting sinus infections. Couldn't understand it. Every 3 months I'd go in, I have a sinus infection, I can't get rid of it, here's an antibiotic. So again, the antibiotic roller coaster ride. And then eventually we figured out, we did a little test, I was allergic to a lot of, dander and tree pollen and all of that. I started taking, Claritin for quite a while. I took it for years, and that's not the solution, that's the Band-Aid. As I was on Claritin, then I started reading a little bit more about it. It messes up with your body's methylation, and I'm not going to get into that, too complicated, too long for this talk. So I stopped taking the Claritin, and what happened was, I think that's when my body started reacting. And of course, a little over 2.5 years ago is when all those symptoms started to happen, that inflammation, because I was not addressing the symptoms, and I was not addressing the possible allergens or sensitivities that I had. So that's the elimination diet that I began. There's several of them out there. You can do gluten and casein-free, ketogenic paleo, the gut and psychology syndrome. You can do an anti-inflammatory diet, anti-candida, various cleanses that support the biochemical pathways that regulate blood sugar, that help your gut health and microbiome, and detox the body. Without the right nutrients, our cells don't function, and then we have symptoms of disease. So in ADHD, when I was in training in my internship, we used to get a lot of children that came in with ADHD. That's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And luckily, I had a fantastic supervisor that was training me, and he was all about nutrition and health. And what we would do is ask the parents just to get them off the casein. Casein is the milk protein that's in milk, cheese, all sorts of dairy products. And you have to read labels because in a lot of products out there, there's casein in it. So we would have the parents read the labels and just take the kids off casein for 2 weeks. The behavior changes were dramatic. And then we would have them start anything with casein in it, add a little cheese, and then again the behavior came back. So there's a huge, huge connection between gluten as well as casein when it comes to ADHD. And there's research. If you're interested, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I have that information to hand out. Not today, but I can email it to you. A recent research study that I read said they did a study with schizophrenics, and they put schizophrenics on a ketogenic diet, and it amazingly help their symptoms just as good as antipsychotic medication. So there's interesting stuff coming through the ketogenic diet arena. It's still early and new, but people are even having good results when they're on a ketogenic diet and eliminating their cravings for alcohol. That's big. So I am interested to find even more about that and see what happens. So obsessive compulsive disorders have some micronutrient deficiency. You give them some tryptophan, St. John's wort, and acetylcysteine. Anxiety, you are lacking some calcium, B vitamins, B12, B30, folate, magnesium, vitamin C, zinc, and they get help with ketogenic diet or GAPS diet, standard, and then the food sensitivity, gluten and casein-free helps with the depression, anxiety as well. All right, let's go. What are the things that you can do? Number one, listen to your body. Be silent and listen to what your body's telling you. We're running around, not paying attention. Things are happening. Oh, my knee hurts. Oh, I have a headache. Not paying attention. Your body speaks so loudly to you that if you ignore it, you'll end up like me, with your, but not really. You may have other issues that you want to look into. Listen to your body, see what's working and not working. Again, N equals 1. There's bio-individuality. We want to make sure that it's our body we're treating, not so-and-so's body. Somebody says, take this pill, it'll help you. Somebody else says, do this diet, it'll help you. You know your body more than anybody. You know your body more than your doctor knows your body. So when you hear things that don't make sense, listen to your gut feeling. Something's telling you. See what's working, and excuses don't work, and they prevent results. So if you're saying, well, I've tried everything. Really? I've tried everything. I've read everything. I've tried this diet and that diet. And a lot of times it's not easy to stick to 100% of that specific diet, right? It's not easy. We're surrounded. There's a birthday, but there's a wedding. I got to have the cake, and I got to do this. And, oh, well, the holidays are around the corner. They're coming. I always say lose weight before you gain the weight. So eat healthy now so that you can combat that. Get involved in your food choices. You have the choice to go to the store and say, do I really want to buy this box of cereal, or do I want to get some bacon and eggs? I know, fat is a villain for everybody, but bacon and eggs are going to satisfy you a lot more than a box of cereal. What does the box of cereal do? Spikes your insulin. Next thing you know, 2 hours later, you're hungry again. And then you go to the office. Oh, there's donuts. Nice. I got to add that to my list. So if I could live off of bananas, condensed milk, and donuts, I'd be a happy girl. I can't do that. Get involved. I rarely eat out. Rarely, right? And my husband's like, let's go out. But we both cook at home. And after a long time of cooking at home, when I go eat out, I'm like, I actually don't like this food anymore. Food tastes better when it's homemade. So it's very rare. Not even a special occasion. We didn't even go out on our 15th wedding anniversary to go out to eat. We ate at home. It's overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me. I'm like, make bone broth? Are you kidding? What does that entail? I have to buy bones and put it in a pot? But after a while, you just get used to it. You find the easy recipes to start off with first. I like 3 to 5 ingredients only. When you get too complicated, I'm not going to make it. But it's healthy, it's nutritious, it's super fast. You can make a nice meal within 30 minutes. What else can you do? You can go and, of course, you can cook with music, which is what I like to do, and that's very meditative for me. It's a nice mindful cooking. And you want to reduce or eliminate your sugar intake and processed foods. You want to increase your quality protein, increase quality fats that are high in omega-3. You also want to increase your veggies. Let me see if this is it. No. Increase your vegetable intake. Eat whole, healthy, nutrient-dense foods and crowd out the junk like we talked about earlier. Incorporate anti-inflammatory foods. Ginger and turmeric are my best friends. I put them in everything. And utilize pre- and probiotics. I take a probiotic on a regular basis. I have to because of my gut and autoimmune disease. Get help. Talk to your physician. Talk to a mental health professional if you have mental health problems that are disturbing you, and say, what's going on here? Why am I depressed? Address the mood issues. Learn skills and learn some tools that are going to help you. Reduce your stress physically, mentally, emotionally. Build resilience. You want to work on your boundaries and build a force field around you. I always have a force field. Whatever you tell me is not going to bug me. It's not going to permeate through me. I don't have a leaky outer field here. And don't be affected by the toxic people in your life. That's what the force field is for. If you can get rid of those toxic people, and you can, go for it. You got to treat yourself good, number one. And it'll definitely reduce your stress level. Exercise. I teach Zumba twice a week. I love it. It keeps me sane, and it provides a lot of nice oxygen in my brain, and you could tell I got redness in the face because I've been sweating and jumping up and down. Meditation is big. I meditate every day, utilizing mindfulness. Get out and walk on the beach. Don't take headphones. Just listen to the ocean. Listen to the wind. It's wonderful, and we need to ground ourselves. You're walking barefoot on sand. This is what we used to do way back when. And get a good night's sleep. So this is a very short list of all the references. And again, if you come to my booth, Infinite Mind Care, I can get your information. I have tons of stuff I can send you free. So I just want to thank you all for being here early this morning. I didn't know how many people would show up on a Saturday at 9 a.m. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Health for including me in this talk. This is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I would love, love, love to talk to anyone that would like to get some more information. How to keep your health, how to keep your brain health, and just live a happy, peaceful life. Thank you.